Hey, what's up, VODs channel? Welcome back to another sit-down talking video. If you're wondering what spurred this one on, it was that Twitch support recently released a statement saying that they were updating how they're tracking viewbotting and countering viewbotting. I say recently, we're going to ignore the fact that this was a month ago. I was a little bit slow to this. So, you might be thinking, why am I talking about this now, and why did I not mention it when this was first announced? Because, admittedly, I forgot about it, because in my mind, viewbotting was always just something that happens, and, like, it's quite obvious normally, so why do we care about it so much? And then I saw something the other day, which then suddenly it clicked in my mind, and I was like, wait a minute. Viewbotting has got significantly more advanced and more accessible. And I did a little bit of a deep dive, you could say. I've done a deep dive. TubboLIVE's done a deep dive. Here we are. So this all starts with a concept called mobile phone farms. Actually, this all starts a while ago when Twitch was less proactive in stopping viewbotting. There was a very popular method of viewbotting, which is where you used a embed of a Twitch stream, which you made 1 by 1 pixels tall and wide, and you put thousands of them on a single web page. Then by one person loading that web page, they would load thousands of instances of that person's Twitch stream, even though it's only 1 pixel by 1 pixel, hence artificially inflating the viewer count. Now, you might be thinking, what does TubboLIVE know about IT and technology and infrastructure? If you didn't know, I've been hosting free Minecraft servers for the last 6 months, and I've learned quite a lot about how internet infrastructure works in that time. And viewbotting has got much, much more advanced. Enter the next thing I wanted to show you. You might have never seen this website before, but this website is Alibaba. It's where consumers can directly buy from Chinese manufacturing giants. And the exact thing I'm talking about is what's known as a mobile phone farm or a mobile phone box. What these boxes are, if you look here, these are thousands of mobile phone motherboards connected in a server configuration, and you can get hundreds of phones into a single box, like so. And these phones are then controlled by a central device, like you can see in this video. This example is for botting TikTok views, but the method is very much the same for other mobile applications, such as Twitch, such as YouTube Shorts, such as Instagram Reels. And what I've seen recently, which is crazy, is that these farms have gone from costing thousands to now costing under £500. And in some cases, it's even cheaper. Like you can see here, this box farm here is £74. For we're talking hundreds of mobile phone devices. And you might be thinking, that's not a big deal, they just have a bunch of phones. Okay, that's a bunch of phones. But where this gets more interesting is that each of these mobile phone instances are using genuine mobile phone hardware, and they're using genuine mobile phone operating systems, which make them so much more difficult for companies like Twitch or companies like Kick to detect whether the viewer is authentic or not. Now, this is where this is going to start going off the rails a little bit. What would you think if I told you that the Taylor Swift Eras tour sparked innovation in the Twitch viewbotting space? Bear with me, okay? This sounds crazy, it sounds like I've put on my tinfoil hat, but this is very much real. A couple years ago, when the Eras tour was announced, from this video here, I recommend you watch it. It was very interesting from a technical perspective. I don't necessarily agree with the overall sentiment of, like, basically dick riding Ticketmaster, but from a technical aspect, very interesting video. This video is talking about when Taylor Swift announced the Eras tour at a fixed ticket price of £50 a ticket. And what that did was it made what's known as ticket scalping, where loads of bots try to buy tickets, incredibly profitable, stopping fans of the artist from being able to buy tickets. Now, what Ticketmaster, the method which ticket scalpers used to make their traffic look genuine, make their buying of ticket requests look genuine, is almost identical to the technology which is used by people who create Twitch viewbotting platforms to disguise their traffic. Okay, what happened with Ticketmaster and the Eras Tour is that these ticket scalpers were using free VPNs. If you don't know what a VPN stands for, it stands for Virtual Private Network. And what VPNs are incredibly good at is obfuscating, which means to hide, the origin IP address of where a request is coming from. Because a big way of detecting bots and countering bots is to track the origin IP address of the request and see if that IP address is registered to a data center. Because chances are a customer isn't buying a Taylor Swift Eras Tour ticket from a server in a data center. That's like very rudimentary detection of how to see if it's a bot. However, things got a little bit more complicated, especially with the Eras Tour, where these companies that were scalping tickets and making thousands of pounds started making deals with free VPNs like you see here. Hosting a VPN can be quite an expensive endeavor, and that might make you think, all of these free VPNs, how can they host these VPNs for free and make money? And you know what they say, if the service is free, you are the product. So what the ticket scalpers were doing were going to these free VPN companies and they were buying the data of the users to then route their illegitimate traffic from data centers through the residential consumer networks, which basically is like, if I have a request to buy a ticket from the Eras Tour, and that's coming from a server, I then send that to the VPN company, which will then send it to one of their users and make it look like that request is coming from like a suburb, a house in the suburbs, like a family of 4, which makes it incredibly difficult to detect whether it's a bot or a real person because the traffic looks genuine. Now, to take this back to Twitch Viewbots are now employing this exact same strategy. They are buying up these mobile phone box farms as there is more mobile phone e-waste than there has ever been before. These mobile phone farms are the cheapest they've ever been, and they learned from the Eras Tour, because I say that probably not is the case. That's probably not the case. It's just funny to say, because the Eras Tour was the only other example I could find of this strategy being used. So what these Twitch Viewbotting companies are doing, or like companies, it's all kind of like under the table, like no one wants to be like, I own a Twitch Viewbotting company, ha 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 ha, What they are doing is they are then doing this exact same method, going to these free VPN companies and being like, hey, will you route all of our phone traffic, which is coming from these box farms, in a data center through one of your users' residential internet connections? And what that does is, rather than Twitch seeing, oh my gosh, there is 1,000 viewers watching this stream all from the same IP address. That's not right. That's clearly illegitimate traffic. Now, Twitch has the mammoth task of being like, oh my gosh, this is 1,000 users of illegitimate traffic, which they don't know is illegitimate, coming from 1,000 different residential addresses. So from Twitch's perspective, there is no difference from a viewbotter. There is no difference from a viewbot and me watching Twitch on my phone in my house, which makes bot mitigation so incredibly difficult. So back to this post here. There was a crackdown in Twitch viewbot traffic. There was a crackdown on Twitch viewbot traffic, and they tackled a lot of viewbots. However, obviously I don't know any of this for certain. I believe that these were the old school bots, the ones that are very well documented and well known, whereas the ones I'm talking about here is kind of new gen viewbotting. What makes this incredibly interesting, though, is just how cheap viewbotting has become. I looked into what it would cost to buy viewbots, and in some cases, you can find, at lowest price, you can find someone selling 1,000 Twitch users for £40 a month. That's roughly $50 to $60 a month. For 1,000 viewers. That's just how cheap and accessible this new format and way of viewbotting has become. It is the all-time cheapest I think I've ever seen, and it's thanks to free VPN companies and the cheaper price of these box farms. So what can Twitch do to solve this new gen viewbotting? The biggest thing they can do is looking at account data. However, because Twitch has been around for so long, loads of the accounts that are used for viewbotting are old, legacy accounts that have so much history that it's so difficult to discern from a genuine user account. Obviously, they have more advanced metrics than we have access to through public data such as like Twitch Leecher or like Twitch Tracker. But it makes you really think. It makes you really think. There is a big view botting on Twitch, but to an extent, it feels like there's not a lot they can do about it. What I think as a community we can do to make view botting and like bots on the internet more detectable is to stop using free VPNs, people. Or if you use a free VPN, really read the privacy settings or the terms and conditions. By using free VPNs and just saying, I'll accept all these different conditions, you are basically helping ticket scalpers or anyone that wants to make their illegitimate traffic look legitimate. And also, do you really want a shady third party being able to route their malicious traffic over your private internet connection? Now that's something to think about. So just read the terms and conditions of free VPNs very, very judiciously. Anyway, that's all I had to say about Twitch viewbotting. I'm not going to be like, oh my gosh, this stream is viewbotting and this stream is viewbotting. But if you want to know which streamers are viewbotting, take a look at their Twitch tracker and look at their average view ratio to the amount of followers they gain in an amount of time ratio. And it paints a pretty clear picture. Anyway, that's all from me today. I wanted to talk about Twitch viewbotting because it was in the back of my mind and I'm like, things are looking a little bit suspicious lately. Twitch has a lot of view bots on the platform. This new era of viewbotting has become increasingly harder and harder to detect. So, I don't know, good luck, Twitch, I guess. Good luck. I wouldn't know how to combat that. But luckily, the people that work at Twitch are much smarter than me. See you later. Bye.